Welcome back, Mando.
Oh, ho, ho. Greetings, Bucketheads. Mavar Tagahar. Welcome to our 340th Rebel Aligning, the Alliance episode of Mandivision. I am your host, Nargai Tom, and thank you so much for checking out this small independent Star Wars podcast. We're so glad you're here. Make sure you reach out to us on the socials at Mandor_Vision on Twitter /X and Insta, and you can email the show mandivisiontom@gmail.com. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and share the show with all the Mandalorians in your covert. Well, Bucketheads, if you can't tell from the tone of my voice, it is once again Mandovision After Dark. And we are here to talk about an awesome episode of Star Wars Rebels. A very pivotal episode, as I sort of alluded to last week, that we can now align with the events that we just saw in Season 2 of Andor. So yes, I am in fact referring to Secret Cargo, an episode we talked about while watching Season 2 of Andor play out before us, because the two episodes do sort of dovetail into each other and work really, really nicely, showing like these really pivotal moments for Mon Mothma and for the formation of the Rebel Alliance, for all these Rebel cells coming together to form the Rebel Alliance. So, yeah, it's a really, really well done episode. I'm a big fan of this one, and I'm really excited to talk with you all about it. In the meantime, before we just get over the little hump here, I did want to mention, I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving here in America, if you celebrate the holiday. And I hope you had a great Thursday if you're in other parts of the world and you don't celebrate Thanksgiving. So, yeah, let's go ahead and let's get the particulars for this episode out of the way before we dive right on in. This is Star Wars Rebels, Season 3, Episode 18, Secret Cargo. Original air date March 4th, 2017. The plot for this week's episode: Hera, Zeb, and Ezra are tasked with transporting a highly valuable rebel leader away from Imperial control, but Thrawn's new TIE models prove trickier than the Ghost crew anticipated. This episode is directed by Bosco NG, written by Matt Mischevitz, and starring so many awesome people. I think you know many of their names already, but let's go ahead and read them to you now. We have Taylor Gray as Ezra Bridger, Vanessa Marshall as Hera Syndulla, Steve Blum as Zeb Borrelios, Dave Filoni's Chopper, D. Bradley Baker as Admiral Constantine and Gold 4, Josh Brenner is Erskine Samaj, Bonnie Wild is Gold 5, Yuri Lowenthal is Gold Leader, Phil Lamar is Gold 3, Mary Elizabeth McGlynn is Gold 2 and Governor Price. Lars Mikkelsen is, of course, Grand Admiral Thrawn. Matthew Woods, an Imperial officer. Mario Vernazza is Valt Skiris, the TIE fighter pilot. And reprising her role as Mon Mothma, Genevieve O'Reilly. Great to see her amongst the cast, reprising her role as Mon Mothma. All right, friends. I think it's time. You guys ready to talk about the episode? Let's go ahead. Let's do it. Let's get into this. You know what that means. It's time. Strap on your buckets. Let's go.
Get out of here. We'll hold them off. You're going to have to relocate the covert. This is the way. This is the way.
I think one of the neat elements of the opening of this episode is, especially when you look back, when you know the whole episode, you know how it plays out and how the episode ends, going back to the beginning of the episode and seeing this point, this sort of like we emphasize that the rebel cells are still very splintered, very factionalized. There's not that cohesion. They are not the Rebel Alliance yet, and that's what we get at the beginning of this episode. We open up, and the Ghost crew, minus Kanan and Jarrus and Sabine Wren, are floating derelict in space, right? They're hiding in a junk pile, right? They're waiting for a secret rendezvous of which they don't know anything about. They were told to go to these coordinates and wait for a rebel transport and then they would be on a refueling mission. That's all they know. They don't know anything else going on. So when an Imperial probe droid shows up unexpectedly, we get a nice run silent, run deep sort of moment for the episode, which I think is really, really cool, where they have to power down the ship, including Chopper. And this isn't the sort of normal probe droid that we know from Empire Strikes Back. It's similar to the one that ended up on Atollon earlier in the season. And I think they do a really nice job of sort of making these Imperial probes super creepy, super interesting. The way it's sort of in this maneuverable craft that opens up into the void of space, into the vacuum of space, and it's just this droid there with sort of a half open mouth and emitting these terrifyingly guttural communications in Imperial code. It's super creepy. And again, yes, I know in real space, sound doesn't travel, so it doesn't make any sense, but this is Star Wars, and we get to have a little fun with it. So we get to hear those creeper noises emanating from said droid, and the sort of, not necessarily fear, but the sort of preparations that Hera and Zeb and Chopper have to take to sort of avoid detection. But because this droid seems to be somewhat more sophisticated than the Imperial probe droids that we know from Empire, it doesn't. After its initial sweep of the area, it circles back, and this time it decides to look for life signs. You can't turn off your life signs, so it forces the crew of the Ghost to engage. And I did overlook the fact that Ezra's there. Ezra's there. He's in the turret. He's ready to go. But they have to pursue this just droid now before it can make communication and report back that there is a rebel presence in this sector, at these coordinates, basically. So as they are able to eventually destroy the probe, it's as Gold Leader and his squadron arrive with a rebel transport in tow. The refueling mission is underway. But, of course, now the threat of the Empire looms because Hera does believe that the rebels' position is compromised from the probe droid. This leads to an awkward moment as Gold Squadron is docking with Phoenix Squadron. And sort of the lack of communication between the two, because, again, Gold Leader wasn't there. They don't understand why they decided to engage the probe droid, but it was on. We know it was on, but Gold Team doesn't believe that. Gold Leader doesn't believe that. And there's a lot of back and forth between the two, Gold 2 accusing the Phoenix Squadron of causing a lot of problems for them because of their activity in the Lothal sector. And even though not everything that they're accused of happened, Zeb is full on admitting, hey, we didn't do that as a communications tower, but yeah, we got targeted in Star Destroyer. We sure did that. So, again, you see that factionalization of the rebel cells, which I think is really important to kind of remind us of in this episode, especially as we reveal what the secret cargo is. Now, before this, at the very beginning, before the probe droid even showed up, while Hera, Zeb, Chopper, and Ezra are waiting for the secret rendezvous, they're watching the holonet because they have nothing else to do but kill time. And it's via the holonet that we see Mon Mothma's speech to the Senate denouncing Emperor Palpatine for the Gorman Massacre. Again, a really powerful moment on Rebels, because we know the Gorman Massacre, it's great to see that connected, brought into the new canon. But I have to admit, the version of her speech on Andor is the superior version of her speech. So we're setting the table. The audience is going to figure out really quickly that Mon Mothma is in fact the secret cargo, right? So but it is fun to see the reaction of Zeb and of Ezra and Hera to her calling out very publicly Emperor Palpatine. It's a bold move. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him. And indeed it does. Spoilers. But yes, we are setting the table up for that. So, of course, when the Empire arrives during the refueling operation, they begin to attack the light cruiser because Mon Mothma is on the run. She is trying to get off course on, again, events depicted in Andor in one of the most spectacular episodes of the show. Can't recommend rewatching that one highly enough. Go do it. It's Welcome to the Rebellion. Right there in the title. Boom. Get after it. So, of course, that transport gets into problems, and everyone has to come on board the Ghost. I don't want to. I don't want to underappreciate the role of I'm blanking on his name right now. Give me 1 second. I got it right here. of Erskine Samaj. Great to see Erskine Samaj, another character who's made the transition back into being into real life on Andor. So first appearance here on the show, but they bring him back into Andor, and so again, it sort of ties all these things together in a really nice way. Very, very well executed. But again, the Empire has our friends on the ropes. Everyone has to evacuate the light cruiser, but Gold and Phoenix squadrons are able to hyperspace away. Now we cut to Thrawn, and the reports from Admiral Constantine of what has occurred, and Thrawn very quickly deduces that is in fact the wanted Senator Mon Mothma, and he also, knowing that it's the Ghost, can predict Hera Syndulla's patterns, and so he anticipates them going through this nebula that's quite dangerous. So he's ready for it. He has a plan. He's going to unleash his new TIE Defenders. And, of course, because she can't not try to seek a little bit of glory for herself, Governor Pryce wants in on the capture of Mon Mothma. So Thrawn allows it, and they're going to sort of give Hera what she wants, right? What she believes is the tactic, and what she's going to outmaneuver the Empire, right? They will pursue her into the nebula, but Governor Pryce will be on the other side waiting for them to arrive. And again, pursuing them through the nebula will be the TIE Defender, the prototype of the TIE Defender. Because again, capital ships can't go through this nebula. It's too big, too volatile. A lot of things could go explodey, and that's bad. So we get a really great sequence of the TIE Defender in pursuit, and the massive capabilities of the TIE Defender. Again, Ezra is aware of the TIE Defender. He was in the factory when they were working on this, building this out. He's seen it sort of in pieces coming together. And next season we'll get an episode where they try to steal one. So Ezra recognizes the danger immediately. But this is also a great episode for fans of the Y-Wing, because we get to see the ion cannon in play, right? So we didn't talk about it in the first wave of attacks before the nebula. But Gold 2 gets knocked unconscious, and Ezra steps aboard to take over piloting duties of a Y-Wing, and we get to see the ion cannons in play, and sort of the strengths of the Y-Wing fighter, which is the ion cannons and its proton bombing capabilities. So really, really cool stuff with the Y-Wing in this episode. I think this episode is really standout for the Y-Wing. I think we all know the X-Wing gets the glory, but the Y-Wing's pretty darn fun too. And it was one of my favorite toys. I loved that one as a kid. I have something about the Y-Wing shape and its sort of interesting bulk was something that I always enjoyed as a child. But yeah, there's a lot of good space combat in this episode, which I think is one of the real strong points of it. Pardon me, friends, especially once we introduce the TIE Defender into things. The TIE Defender, obviously, if you're old like me, you remember the TIE Fighter video game and the TIE Defender originating there. But of course, recanonized as part of Thrawn's plan to win the war against the rebels, not with super weapons, but with superior weapons and superior tactics. Maybe they should listen to the guy. We can talk about that later, though. So we get a great episode. Again, a great pursuit through the nebula. A lot of good space combat stuff. Ultimately, Ezra is able to sort of outmaneuver and outthink the TIE Defender pilot and gets him lined up for a shot where Gold Leader is able to hit him with the ion cannon and disable his ship temporarily. So our heroes emerge from the nebula. The Ghost has taken a lot of damage from trying to shake off the TIE Defender. They do a bold move near a star, and they are sort of half-powered at this point, but they are now being pursued by Governor Pryce and two Star Destroyers. So how do we rectify this? It's sort of funny because, again, real science and Star Wars have never really gone hand in hand. A lot of my adventures through nebulas have been in Star Trek. So seeing Star Wars sort of bring some of that stuff into things in a very Star Warsy fashion is excellent. So the fact that Gold Leader and Ezra use their proton torpedoes to ignite parts of the nebula against the Star Destroyer are fantastic, because the Ghost is caught in the tractor beam. It's about to be hauled in. So they set off these explosives, and bada bing, bada boom. We're able to get the Ghost free. We're able to make our escape because Chopper got the hyperdrive charged enough in the intervening time so they can make their escape. And our heroes and the Y-Wings leave. And it's a great visual of those Star Destroyers on fire, I suppose, just receiving massive damage from the explosions of the nebula. Really, really great sequence. A lot of fun. Good stuff. And then we get to the big moment, as was alluded to in the beginning of the episode. This is the meeting. Mon Mothma will not miss it. She want to go to Chandrila and hide from the Empire. She's here to get on the front lines. And she arrives in orbit above Dantooine and sends out a signal, sends out a message to all Rebel cells, that now is the time to unite. We are taking the fight to the Empire, and now we are declaring it. We are declaring open war on the Empire and who is with her. And it's a great moment of, I guess this is like melodramatic tension in the sense that like we know they will answer the call. But it's a great sequence of some silence while we wait to see if anyone does, and then one ship appearing in the distance, and then soon 2 more, and then 2 more, and then 5 more. And eventually we have a very full screen of Rebel cells coming together under the banner of the Rebel Alliance. And it's a great sequence as Mon Mothma speaks, as we cut to the various fronts that we know from the movies, from the Rebel show. You have Bail Organa in there. You have what's going on in Lothal. Like, you have the people of the Rebel base on Adelon for Phoenix Squadron. All these different things that we have seen through the show, and a couple of the hints of what was known from the movies. As they watch the speech, as they wait for Mon Mothma to give word, as she rallies the people to the cause. And again, for the animated series, I think the speech she gives is quite good. Would I like to see a Tony Gilroy penned speech to possibly replace it at some point? Yeah, I'm not going to say no to that. Like, if they wanted to have Tony Gilroy kind of do a version of the Secret Cargo episode as like some kind of Star Wars bonus episode on like the internet, I'd be okay with that. I got no problem with that. That'd be rad as heck. I mean, we have enough of these characters cast in real life. Might as well try it, right? What's the worst that could happen? But that's how the episode ends. The Rebel Alliance is formed. So we start with the factioned Rebel cells still at the beginning of the episode. And by the end of the episode, we have a unified Rebel Alliance. And it changes everything. It changes the scope of battle against the Empire. Good stuff. I highly recommend this episode. It is 8 1/2 buckets, my friends. Underrated episode. Great space combat. The TIE Defender. Got some cool stuff with the Nebula. I love the sequence with the Star Destroyers burning in space. I thought it was awesome. And again, the musical score, the way Kevin Kiner nails it at the end by bringing in the familiar tones of the films. Excellent stuff. Go check out this episode if you're sleeping on it, all right? And we're going to wrap this puppy up, okay? So remember, this is the Mandovision Podcast. I am your host, Nargai Tom. Thank you so much for checking out our small independent show. We're glad you're here. Buckethead Nation is the best place to be, so make sure you keep listening to the show. Reach out to us on those socials. Mando_Vision on X and Insta, Mandovision at Blue Sky, and you can email the show, mandovisiontom@gmail.com. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and share this show with all the Mandalorians in your covert. If possible or so inclined, sweet 5-star reviews. They help us out so much, especially our small independent shows. And in the meantime, remember, go out there. I want you guys to be great Star Wars fans, kind, supportive, respectful, understanding, tolerant, and even if we don't disagree, even if they're like, this element of Star Wars is duty. You know what? If that's an element of Star Wars you like, that's okay. You can listen to them. You can respect the differences of opinions and have a nice civil conversation about it. Because that's the kind of people that Buckethead Nation is. All right? So we'll be back next week for another ever exciting episode of our Star Wars Rebels rewatch. I'll be here for all breaking Star Wars news. We'll talk about that. Keep you guys posted on my comics that I'm reading. And just stay tuned. Bantha Treks bonus shows coming throughout the holidays. And yeah, gosh, can you guys believe it? 2025 almost over. It's just a matter of weeks. I think as you listen to this one, it's already December. So good lordy. But we'll be here with you for the rest of the year and on all through 2026. All right, Bucketheads, go out there, be awesome. We'll be back. Remember, this podcast can only end one way. This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.